I don't even have words anymore, but we're right up
Country
at
is coming along.
1 minute
It's the
left.
big,
What do you have for us? Any last words?
always stand up for what you believe in and keep your faith in God, keep your faith in humanity, and do not put hope in one person. Because at the end of the day,
Mm.
there's no plan. The border is wide open. We are in the middle of the New World Order. And put faith in God and put faith in humanity. Stop putting hope in one person.
Amen. I love it. I appreciate you being on so much. You give me a rush. I'm excited, re-energized, and you are doing great things. And keep it up and keep your head high. You look great. I mean, you've been through so much, and you don't even look. You look great. You don't look like you're stressed or anything. So I'm just proud of you. So thank you
Thank
for
you.
being my
Appreciate
guest, and
that.
thank you for representing New York.
No problem. It has a lot to do with faith in God. And on Instagram, I am on Instagram, Unfiltered Conservative on Instagram.
Good. Yes, go find him. Everywhere else, shut him down.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Steve. You have a wonderful
Thank you
night.
very much for having me. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm truly moved. He's someone I've looked up to for a long time. And to be able to have him on my show explaining his walk was just really touching. And with that said, you know what? They may be woke, but we're awake. Keith Sanders is on next. Got to hang on for this guy. Looks like you got a fresh haircut too. Yeah. Is that the
No,
Trump dance?
I just brushed it. I changed things up, but I
You
brushed
brushed
it.
your hair today.
I did
Well,
brush
you
my
did
hair today.
something.
It's,
You
you
went
know
to
what
the
I know what it is?
barber.
The angle is different. And let me tell you a quick funny story why. As I was getting ready for my
Okay.
show tonight, I tipped over my monitor and I broke it. With about 20 minutes to go,
Oh,
I broke my monitor and I had to dig out this really old flat screen TV that I think my wife bought in like 2002. And I had to
gosh.
frantically get this thing together. It's considerably bigger than the one I normally use. And now you're looking at me from like the ceiling. And I don't know. Does it look all right? Am I
It
okay?
looks fine.
I think you look
All I
great.
noticed. Well, thanks. I just noticed you looked like like you hit up the barber before your show, so you look good.
I think it's that trick that people play where they look up at the camera and it kind of like thins them out. I think I have that going
Oh
on
my
right now.
gosh. That is
Is
why
that
I
working?
literally went and got a puzzle box, and so my screen is like 2 inches higher. So I'm trying to do the thin me out trick right
I
now.
love how honest we are. I appreciate that. One more quick
Yeah.
thing. You may have
Okay.
mentioned this book over my shoulder a couple times, and you gave me a hard time
Hey.
about it. So I went back because I've read that book. And you know what I found? I found a little bookmark that I left in that book because I marked it on the part that had to do with me. And I don't want to hear it anymore. I am strategic. Just so you know, I marked it in
Ooh,
that
that's
book.
my number one.
I am strategic.
Yeah,
You probably
that's
have a
my
little more
one too.
strategery than I do. You're probably a little bit better than I am.
Maybe not.
I think you are. How was your show
Awesome.
tonight?
Well,
I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to
it
see it. It went well?
That's okay. Amazing. I mean, to have somebody on your show that you have been watching and looking up to for 9+ months, really, really touching and humbling. So it went
That's
really
really
well.
cool. I appreciate your approach on
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
What state are we going to next week?
Next week. So actually, we're doing a special edition next week, and my sister is going to be my guest, and it's going to
Awesome.
be a segment on recovery. And so she
Okay.
lives in Washington State, which I know I've already done, but she's going to talk about something that's just really important. She's been through it. Our whole family's been through it with her, by proxy, and she's going to
Yep.
just we'll have just a really transparent conversation, and
Wow.
I think it'll be great. And who knows? I'm going to try not to cry on that one. I'm not a crier, so I'll just have to have an onion around me or something.
It
But
says a
but
lot.
yeah,
It
so
says a lot about you and your family to be able to be that honest. You're probably going to inspire a lot of people, and I'm really looking forward to that one. I congratulate you for doing that, you
oh,
and your
thank you
sister.
so much. I appreciate it. Well, you have a
All
great
right.
show today.
I'm going to try. All right, Juan, let's roll it.
Hello, America. I am Savannah Lynn from The Savvy Truth on Right American Media, and I'm here to remind you that Right American Media has a plethora of other shows, like Council of Colonels, Point of View with Josh and Justin Barnes, KSOC Uncensored, our blue state conservative. Here's My 2 Cents with Keith Sanders, our Air Force veteran, and the newest addition to our family, The Loaded Mic with Danny Wuss. And don't forget, this is on every Tuesday and Thursday, so if you love God, love your family, and you love this country, you better be there.
The Second Amendment is a priority at the Loaded Mic. If we don't defend the right to keep and bear arms, there are people who are happy to violate it. The strategies and tactics of the anti-gun crowd and politicians are sinister, and we need to understand those tactics. I wrote the Good Gun, Bad Guy book series as the rule book to their evil game, so we can understand their strategies and motives to defeat them. Understand the mindset of the anti-gunner in Book 1. Learn the media strategies behind the gun grab in Book 2, and understand the politics behind their mission in Book 3. Go to goodgunbadguy.com.
Good evening and welcome to Here's My 2 Cents with me, your host, Keith 2 Cent Sanders. We are live everywhere. I start every show by saying that, but we got to list them off. We're live on Facebook, on Right America Media. We're live on YouTube now, my channel, Here's My 2 Cents. I want all of you to go over there. You here on TikTok, we're live on TikTok as well. Maybe we're going to add Twitter and Insta and all that cool stuff, but we're live. We're absolutely everywhere. We got a ton to talk about tonight. We have so much to talk about. I swear I say this every week. I get done with the show and I say, what on earth am I possibly going to talk about next week? I'm starting to sound like a broken record. But of course, there's just an absolute ton going on right now. I will say that there's some good news this week. We have some genuine good news, but I'm going to make you wait. You guys are going to have to wait. You at home, you here at TikTok, you're going to have to wait. Your boy 2 Cent has some really, really good news. Stick around. You're really going to like that. I'm going to make you wait. I'm going to make you wait. You guys don't just get everything off the bat and then, oh, 2 Cent had some good news tonight. I'm out of here. No, you're going to stick around. You're going to stick around for the bad news. If I got to read all about it and watch the videos and I got to see all this stuff that's going on, then you got to stick around with me too. If you're new to the show, thank you so much for being here. Spread the word to your friends. I know you probably were told by somebody else and that person was a really trusted friend and you said, I'm going to go check out 2 Cent. And if you've been here, you've been telling your friends, and we need to keep pushing this conservative message. That's a little tease hint to the good news for later. I'm not going to give it all away. But if you've seen me here before, if you've watched me on TikTok, I'm giving you guys a new angle. If you like it, let me know. If you've seen before, normally the view isn't like this. Like I was telling KSOC right before this, I kid you not, I was getting my setup ready and my monitor started to tip over in slow motion. And in my head, I said, I can get that. I can get that. I'm not getting that. And it just crashed. And I picked it up and it looked okay. And I'm like, oh, it's fine. I'm going to be all right. And I see Juan's getting my stuff up there tonight. Juan, did you get my handles? TikTok, YouTube. All right, I'm getting the thumbs up. We got all the names. All right, let's see what we got here tonight. Anyway, I broke my monitor and I have this giant screen in front of me and I can see everything. And I don't know. I think it looks a little crazy, but we're going to have some fun with it tonight. Let's get into the meat of this week. I'm ready. You're ready. You've been waiting all week. I put a ton of time into this, so let's get going. The first thing I have to say right off the bat, and I'm going to spend a little time on this one tonight. The first one I have to say is the biggest story in the country tonight is one that I cannot talk about. And it really frustrates me and it really upsets me because we live in the land of the free. We have a constitution. The constitution wasn't enough. They put 10 amendments in. They gave us the Bill of Rights, which had 10 amendments. They continue to build on the amendments to make sure that we had all the rights protected. Because remember, government doesn't afford rights. Government protects our rights. And if you look at the first 10 amendments, they all actually say further what the government cannot do, shall not infringe upon. They looked at the Constitution and said, this is not restrictive enough. We need 10 amendments right now that further clarify not what the American people can do, but what the United States government cannot do. Real quick, I'm going to digress here real quick. As a a student pilot. I'm a pilot if you didn't know that. You can always tell because they'll tell you. When I was training, I had an instructor that I flew with once who was actually from Australia. And he actually told me in their country, it's the exact opposite. Whereas everything in this country is legal until we pass a law that says it's illegal. In his country, everything is illegal unless there is a law that says you can do it. So that's an exact opposite of what we do here. And these are the freedoms that I think people in America absolutely take for granted. We have the freedom to do what we want unless we as a society have passed a bill to make it a law and use a representative body to do that, that would then say, no, that's illegal, and we've agreed to it. And then we have a checks and balance system that's all there as well to make sure the government isn't infringing upon your rights. So I just really wanted to draw the line. I was shocked at this. As an American, as having served in the military, I've served with Australians before when I was in Iraq and Afghanistan. I'm a war hero as well, if you guys didn't know that. These are jokes. We're allowed to make jokes. However, I was not aware that they had a system where everything was illegal until their government said it was legal. Imagine that. You have to rely on your government to tell you that you can do something. Here in this country, we are allowed to do what we want unless we have decided. With all that being said, the biggest story in the country right now, I can't talk about. I'll give you the topic. It's the Derek Chauvin trial in regard to George Floyd. And you can see me already trying to carefully pick my words. I'm a regular person just like you. I have a job. I don't do this for a living. I do this because I want to help keep a conservative message going forward. That's why I encourage so many of you over here and on here when you find me on YouTube to stay with the smaller places, because we are real people that are giving a conservative viewpoint. K-Soap does a fantastic job of getting that conservative message out. You guys can also find Council of Colonels on Thursday nights. You can find The Savvy Truth, one of our actual youngest and probably one of our most intelligent contributors that we have. She pushes a strong conservative message, Loaded Mike, and so on. Juan, who's our producer, has put together this team because we're real people that are putting out a conservative message. And normally by this point, I've already given you the rundown of what we're going to talk about. I've given you a catchy phrase, but this is so important. And it's got me so upset this week. I can't talk about this story because I don't want to get shut down. The government is not infringing upon my rights, but when they have a complicit social media empire that will silence dissenting opinion, they don't have to infringe upon our rights. And I'm really upset about it. And I'm a real human being. And I live in America and I'm a veteran. And I have long said the day that we no longer have freedom of speech is a day that we've lost everything. Everyone that's fought before me, which are the reasons that I served, my father, my grandfathers, everyone that I wasn't related to that I saw marching on the streets on Memorial Day and 4th of July and Veterans Day, all of them that served before us was for nothing if we don't have these rights anymore. And the biggest story, I'm on a news affiliate, Right America Media, a news outlet. I talk about this stuff because it's important. I'm a citizen. I mentioned how we all have a right to say these things. I am genuinely worried something will be taken out of context, something will be just pulled apart and twisted and turned. I have to keep a job. I have a family to take care of. And I wanted to make that very clear to everyone that unfortunately, I can't talk about the biggest topic this week. I'm sorry, I can't. We have to stay away from this one because we have to stay on. I fear that they're just waiting for someone, not necessarily me, but waiting for someone to slip up and say something. Maybe they said it and it was stupid. Maybe they said it and it was horrible. They want to paint all of us with that. I'm sure you've seen the memes where if anyone says anything contrary to the main narrative, and you see me talking around this, if you see anyone talking around the main narrative, they're getting labeled. And they want to label all of us that way. And I'm sorry, no more apologies. One more apology. I'm sorry, we can't talk about that one tonight. Moving on. Let's get into the meat of this week. Here we go. The border, massively out of control. Voter ID is now voter suppression. Biden is going to spend all the money ever. Dems definitely don't want to take your guns, but definitely do. And I'm going to do a little riffing and ranting. I've already done a little bit so far tonight, but we're going to do a little bit more later on. With all of that said, here's my 2 cents on spend, government, spend. And I really do have big news. I'm going to tease you guys. I'm going to pull this string. I'm going to keep you along. We have big news. If you follow your boy on TikTok, I went live last night. You'd already know the big news. And if you guys were over here last night, if you were on, you'd already know the big news. But I'm going to pull you guys along. You guys got to find me on TikTok at 2centksj, Twitter at 2centksj, Instagram at 2centksj. Follow your boy. I have all the good stuff. Like I mentioned, we had the Derek Chauvin trial. Can't talk about it. I'm not the right person to talk about it, and I want to stay on. However, here's something I can talk about. I can talk about how other people are talking about it. You have people on TV like Lester Holt who are saying that they're not going to give essentially dissenting opinions any credibility. I'm not the only one pointing this out. Tucker Carlson pointed it out. Others have pointed this out. This is an atrocity. This is out of control. You're to present the 2 sides, and God forbid the American people get to make their own decision. How they let this come out of their mouth, they then hear it later and don't think to myself, wow, that sounds like propaganda. How does anybody not do that? How does anybody in a position where millions of people see them nightly, and they say something along the lines of, we are not going to give a dissenting opinion any airtime, and them not see how horrible that is? Just how horrible it is. Now, you might get others like Chelsea Handler, terrible B-rate comedian who only ever gets any publicity for saying stupid stuff. I got a tweet here from her. Let me pull it up for you. Perhaps we skip trials when there is audio and video footage of the murder. So this human being here, American, can exercise her God-given right, not her government-given right. She can exercise her God-given right to say, let's get rid of due process. We have due process in this country. Every single American is entitled to due process. All of us, except for when Chelsea Handler says we have audio and video. Now, here's where I have to do some more dancing. I'm not going to specifically talk about any of the contrary facts. I'm sorry. I would like to stay on YouTube because I want to keep my message going. I'm not going to talk about things that medical examiners have said, but I will point for you to do your own research. There was more than one autopsy done. They don't agree. These are facts. These are non-controversial facts, at least in my opinion. This person could talk about how let's get rid of due process, which is nothing new. They did it to Justice Kavanaugh. That's not a problem. This person here can say another human being doesn't get, another American on top of that, doesn't get due process. Who cares, right? Who cares? We got video. Who cares that there's an autopsy? Who cares that the autopsy shows things? And I'll keep talking around it. It shows things, folks. Do a little bit of research. I'm sorry I can't present this to you. There's more than one autopsy. They do not match. I wanted to bring up these facts. I want to talk about these things, but I more want to stay on, I should say. And I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated. I've already mentioned that this isn't the government doing it, but at the same time, they're not doing anything to stop it. Once upon a time, our liberal friends were for all free speech. Didn't matter. All free speech all the time. We all want free speech. Let's get lots and lots and lots and more of it. Sorry about the cord. Now I look better. They used to say this. They used to be for it. Now we have the term disinformation and misinformation. It's really upsetting. I'm legitimately worried about this topic. I'm legitimately upset. And so with that being said, we're doing a hard turn. We're doing a hard turn. Here we go. Let's get back to the border. Well, the president is now in charge of the border. No, not Biden, not Papa Joe. I said the president, and I meant it. I'm allowed to make jokes, YouTube. Kamala has been given the nod to take over the border. Okay, she's running some of our foreign policy and our foreign affairs by talking to foreign leaders. This is a foreign matter. It deals with another country. Might as well have the leader of the free world taking care of it. Again, jokes. We're allowed to make these. That being said, no updates. It's been 8 days. 8 days since she's been tapped. No updates. No press conference. Nada. Nada. I guess we're cool with that. Press doesn't seem to have a problem with it. They made it, 63 days without the actual president doing a press conference? And once they did, they just drooled over him. They gave glowing reviews afterwards. If you follow my TikTok at 2centksj, I've done a few videos on that. If you guys are over here, go check them out. Biden was Mr. Transparency, right? Promised us. This man doesn't lie. This 47-year politician does not lie. He's Mr. Transparency. When pressed to actually give transparency at the border where the children are not being held in cages, they're pods and or jail-like conditions, very important. When he was pressed to give transparency at the border, he said, yeah, when I'm ready. When I say so. When I say so. Then eventually they toured some facility that, of course, looked fantastic. Ted Cruz got in there. I don't know if you guys got a chance to see that one. And you had someone from that administration, that staff or otherwise employed by the administration, blocking his camera. And in one of the most blatant gaslighting situations I've ever seen, which is to say she was blaming him for exactly what she was doing. She kept repeating, give the people respect and dignity. Give the people respect and dignity. You give them respect and dignity. Work to get them out of here. You're at 1,500% capacity. Children are sleeping on each other. Ted Cruz is a United States senator. His constituents from his state, which that border facility is at, want to know what's going on there. He has every right to be there. We have every right to see it. And they block it. But Mr. Transparency, when held to the fire, barely, said, I'll let you see it when I want you to see it, and then I'll show you what I want you to see. It's pretty gross. It's pretty gross. If I were brand new to any sort of politics, and I knew nothing about Joe Biden, I knew nothing about Donald J. Trump and Barack Obama or anything in the last 20, 30 years, and I looked at this guy and I said, wait, you're not going to let me see it? Wait, you're only going to show me what you want me to see? Does anybody who voted for Biden and or against Trump feel at all bamboozled? A little honesty would be nice. A little bit would be nice. The border itself is absolutely under a surge, and I do not care what AOC has to say. She has now turned the term surge into a racist remark because she then conflated it to say that it meant insurgency and that these are now insurgents. Nobody said that. Stop assigning motive and changing definitions. Go cry outside, standing outside of an empty parking lot. It worked for you a few years ago. Wear your all white, cry and scream, and have your histrionics, big word of the night. It's a pretty good one. Go there, scream and yell, put your weight on your knees because you're just about so ready to collapse. Go to some empty parking lot somewhere and get a press brief out of it. Get some coverage out of it. Go on Instagram Live and tell everyone that you were there and that you fought the good fight. From any press interaction with Psaki or with Papa Joe himself, they want to try to maintain that the parents aren't just taking these kids and just sending them north. They wouldn't do that. But there's footage of exactly that happening. And here's another one I was worried about showing, and this is really upsetting. It shows smugglers dropping a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old over the wall. I was this close to playing a clip of it on this show, and I didn't for 2 reasons. First, I don't want to get taken down. I could probably show the exact same clip that I was going to pull from Bloomberg and or CNN and or, but for some reason I'm worried that if I play it on my show with a modest group of people who follow me, and I thank you so much for following me, if I were to show that, I'm worried I'm going to get kicked off. Second reason, it's horrific. So that 2 Cent, let them all in. Open the doors, let them all in. Let's turn off the incentive. I got a video for you for that very same thing in a little bit. Turn off the incentive. You know what? Let's go to that one right now. Hey, Juan, I'll tell you what. Can you play for me cut 2? We have Senator Graham at the border. He's got some pretty good information.
just very quickly, instead of asking a Republican or a Democrat, why don't you ask the people in charge of policing the border what the problem is? Rather than making a political statement and a question, why don't you walk right over there and ask the guy, what the hell happened? We got a chart, I'll give it to you. This was June, right here. See this spike? It was big. What did Trump do? He told Mexico, we're going to put tariffs on all your products unless you allow us to have asylum seekers stay in Mexico. What happened? It went down to a 45-year low because nobody's going to pay $20,000 to come to Mexico and wait for 4 years. The day the first plane load of kids went back to Central America, the unaccompanied minor problem went to a 45-year low. So why don't you do your job as a reporter and ask the professionals what the hell has happened in the last couple of months, and they will tell you. They told the Biden administration, if you do what you're planning, we're going to lose control of the border. They were right. I want to know who they told, and I want those people to be held accountable. I'm not going to give this up.
I think he did a pretty good job telling us what was going on there. Turn off the incentive. Put deterrence in place. When you show up day one, Joe, and you sign away everything that Trump put in place, and you get a big spike, and you go, well, Trump had a spike. Great, you're here now, and so are these kids. When the numbers are going up and you're on a pace for a 20-year high or possibly higher, well, Trump's numbers are going up. Great, you're here now. When people say they want to see what's going inside, and you say, I'll show you when I'm ready. No, they're in there now. You work for us. At some point, could somebody tell them they work for us? The media's not going to do it. You saw Lindsey Graham right there. They're not going to do it for us. You think giving hotel rooms and or releasing them directly into the United States with no return date has an effect? Do you think getting rid of the Remain in Mexico plan has any effect? Do you think that there's an impact due to COVID? People on social media lost their ever-loving minds when Texas rescinded the mask mandate. Lost it. Said there's going to be a surge like we've never seen. They're going to kill everyone. Everyone's going to die. But those same exact people are mum. When you have known infected COVID migrants coming over the border and being released into the country. Mum. Absolutely mum. Speaking of the numbers, or actually speaking of Mexico and their response to COVID, you'll remember this whole time, the United States is doing so much worse than other countries. They're even doing worse than Mexico, who's right next to us. We're doing worse than Canada. We're doing worse than everybody. And Trump kept saying, we're testing more people. It's not that we have more people that are infected. We know of more people who are infected. We're just somehow the country with a higher infection rate of the same exact virus. Of course, he was laughed at and he was mocked and he's lying and he's not telling us the truth. He's not being as transparent as Papa Joe is, obviously. We got an update. Let me get it for you. Underreported. That's another hint. You're going to find that out in a second. That's actually a hint to my good news. It's underreported. Mexico. This is off of Fox News, written by Peter Atkin. Atkin? Hope I got your name right. Mexico revises coronavirus death toll up by 60%, suffering second most deaths globally. Think Trump was right? Was he lying? We know of more people. Nobody cared. But these people are coming through Mexico. These children are coming through Mexico and or are from Mexico, being dropped onto our side, put into not kids in cages, given an education. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Let me read you a little bit more. A report published by Mexico's health ministry showed that by mid-February, there had been just over 294,000 deaths associated with COVID-19, a nearly 60% increase from the original published figure. Anybody go crazy about that one? Anybody lose their minds? Anybody draw a correlation to the human beings that are traveling through that country on their way to this country? Considering we now know that their numbers were released off by some 60%, you think the rest of the world got it right? The whole rest of the world did better than our country. You think their numbers are accurate? Did anyone ever actually believe those numbers? We're probably the most honest and closest to our actual numbers than any country. And I don't trust any other country. And not because of this, I never have. I don't trust anyone. I don't even trust what our numbers are, by the way. And I won't get into it because I don't want to be called some sort of a denier. I'm allowed to not agree with the numbers. I think that they have shifted what qualifies for it. That's an opinion. I'm allowed to have that. Once these kids who travel through Mexico or are from Mexico get here, what are we doing with them? Biden wants to say that they're being sent back, but they're being put in these not kids in cages. What are we doing with them? We're reuniting them with family because they come with a phone number. Joe gave that great idea out last week. They left out, they're getting an education. They're coming on over here for an education. So Jen Psaki, the press secretary, got confronted with this. And of course, she had to say, I need to give you context. Which if you've ever listened to me, you know that I know that you know that I know that when they say give context, it means let me tell you how to see that. I know you're looking at it. Let me give you the lens through which I want you to see it. So she gets asked about it. Again, I got another article here. Exclusive, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki on Tuesday was grilled about San Diego public school teachers volunteering to teach migrant children in person before returning to the classroom to teach the students in their own district. Psaki seemed to defend the in-person instruction while students are on spring break, saying that gives you context. Oh, it's because they're on spring break. It's not that we haven't been going to the classroom for over a year and having our teachers union saying that it's not safe and having our teachers union mandate billions and billions of dollars that hasn't been put into effect to change anything yet. It's not that we've been doing any of this stuff. It's that the children are on spring break. Oh, then another day happens and there's actual more information. The very next day, San Diego teachers give an option to teach migrant kids in person instead of Americans. It was one more day. It was one more day. Our teachers have been asked if they're interested in working at the convention center site as opposed to the work sites they are assigned to. San Diego teachers have been given the option to replace work shifts at their schools, which shifts teaching migrant children in person at the San Diego Convention Center, Fox News has learned. So if you pay taxes in San Diego, if you pay taxes as an American, because billions of our dollars have gone for these schools, your kids may or may not get taught. The same teachers and teachers unions that said they can't go into the classroom because it's dangerous are going to go into a convention center with children who have passed through Mexico, where we now know their numbers are some 60% higher than previously reported. But everything's fine. America first is wrong, right? You pay taxes, you follow the laws, you try to give your children the best that you can, but you're second to people who have just showed up, some here. No, if you just showed up, that's fine. If you came here legally, don't take that out of context. What I meant was, if you show up here illegally, you're going to get preferential treatment to the children who are here legally, who are citizens of this country, whose parents pay taxes. I'm going to bring this up some more in HR 1. We talked about HR 1 last week. I've been telling you about this. I've been sort of teasing it for a little while, but there's so much that's been going on. We finally got to HR 1 last week. Stick with me. We're going to give you a little bit more on that. There's a lot more to unpack on that one. What's happening at this border is Joe Biden's problem. You're causing it, Joe. You've given them incentive. You're giving them hotel rooms. You're giving them education. You're giving them medical treatment. You're releasing them without a return date. You've given them an incentive. You stop the border wall. You're giving them incentive and at the same time removing any obstacles, pun intended, for them actually being here. But Trump. Doesn't matter. You're the president. He had a spike in his numbers. Yep, we already talked about that. What did we do about it? Remain in Mexico plan, 45-year low. You're here now. Your policies are leading to this. Your policies are contributing to small children being dumped over the wall. That wall is 14 feet tall, by the way. 14 feet tall where they were dropped over. Back to the leader of the free world, Vice President Kamala Harris. Where are you? Where are you? What are you doing? You're in charge of the border now. Where are you? 8 days since having been tapped as the border fixer-upper. Not one press conference. Not one statement. Where are you, Kamala? Where are you? Does anyone with a press badge care? Why do I ask stupid questions? I do it every week. Every week I ask stupid questions. All of this with actual lying, not where when Trump said it was huge and they said it's not huge, it's big, that's a lie. Not where Trump said it happens a lot and they said it's not happening a lot, it happens frequently. That's a lie. Not lies like that. Truly lying about what's going on at the border. Lying through omission. Lying that the children aren't getting an education. Oh, wait, they are getting an education. Lying that we're not releasing people with COVID, but we're releasing people with COVID. Nobody seems to care. This administration, in only, a little over 2 months, is allowed to do whatever they want. It's absolutely infuriating. And we say this, and usually it's hyperbole, and our side gets in, and they say it's the end of the world, and then their side gets in, and we say it's the end of the world. They're putting through legislation that has generational impacts. They're trying to, through HR 1, which we're going to get to in a little bit, absolutely take over the election process. They have completely revamped what it is to come into this country legally, illegally. They're passing bills that spend money that doesn't even exist, will never exist, but we're going to keep paying interest on it, and we're going to have to keep raising taxes for it. This is the part of the show where I harp on midterm elections. I go live on TikTok. I'm here every week. Midterm elections. So many people forget that in between 2016, there's 2018, right? Between 2016 and 2020, there's 2018. Every single person in the House of Representatives is up for a vote. Some of the people, depending on which midterm it is, are up for a vote in the Senate. Mayors, governors, local elections, and so on. We have the midterm elections. In 2022, it's a non-presidential election cycle. There's generally a drop in participation from whoever has the White House. So in this case, Biden's got the White House. In 2022, on average, the Democrats should show up in less force than they did. That's our time to strike. That's when we go. That's when we're at the polls. That's when we take back the House. That's when we take back the Senate. And we need both so we can hold the executive branch in check. Because there is no way Joe Biden is doing this. He has an entire apparatus, which is almost entirely Barack Obama retreads. You show me anywhere in his 47-year career where Joe Biden was an advocate for massive spending, massive increase of government, reaching into how the votes are done. You show me anywhere in the last 47 years where he advocated that. He was continually voted in for being a nice guy and having the air of being a moderate. So you're going to tell me now, after 47 years, he gets into the White House and now he wants to do this? No, the people around him want this to happen. 2022, commit to it. 2022. Trump at CPAC said we have to vote in strong conservatives. I agree. And we have to stop. This was mine. We have to stop voting for names that we know. When they're getting primaried, hold them to it. Organize. If they're not voting the way you want, they're not putting that pressure in, organize. Sometimes their vote differentials when they win is a couple thousand. You get 500 people together, you're going to put some pressure on them. Speaking of HR 1, speaking of voter turnout, been talking about it for a while. We finally got a chance to get into it last week. Senator Ted Cruz, who I've mentioned a couple times now, he had something I really want you to see. Juan, can you please play for me cut 1?
I just came from the Rules Committee hearing on the Corrupt Politicians Act. This is the most dangerous legislation that's ever been considered by the Rules Committee. It is in the House H.R. 1, it is in the Senate S.1. That means it's the very first bill that was submitted by Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats, the very first bill that was submitted by Chuck Schumer and the Democrats. It is their number one priority. Pause for a minute and reflect that the top priority of the Democrats is not COVID-19. It's not immunizations. It's not getting people back to work. It's not reopening schools and getting millions of kids back in the classroom. It is locking in power for the Democrats for the next 100 years. That is their overarching priority. How does it do this? The Corrupt Politicians Act mandates automatic voter registration whenever anyone has an interaction with the government. whether they have an interaction getting a welfare check, an unemployment check, whether they have a driver's license from the DMV, whether they attend a public university, everyone is registered. This bill is intended to and will register to vote millions of illegal aliens. That is exactly what the Democrats want to do with this bill, is register millions of illegal aliens. And the text of the bill acknowledges that, and it says the illegal aliens who are registered to vote, even though it's against the law for them to vote, they face no liability because they're automatically registered to vote.
I've been talking about that. That's the one I've been talking about. That's what they're trying to do. And if you say anything to the contrary, it's voter suppression. Now, last week, I talked about this for the first time, and CNN tried to debunk it, and I read that for you. Go back, take a look at last week's show. They want to say, while it could happen, it's still illegal. Yep, that makes it all okay. That makes it all okay. While it could happen, it's still illegal. You're going to register all illegal aliens because we know they're going to colleges here. If you are going to college, you're registered. 16-year-olds, registered. Felons, registered. You're not allowed to clear out the voter rolls. You're not allowed to talk about it because it's voter suppression. Now, it's illegal, right? So that's not going to happen. You have the Democrats and the entire media apparatus telling you that anything the Republicans are doing, and I'm going to show you some of this in a little bit, what the Republicans are doing is voter suppression and it's attack on voting rights. And what the Democrats are doing are expanding voter rights. You're expanding it. It's a massive, massive power grab like we have absolutely never seen before. An absolute power grab. And language is important, and that man knows it. I believe he's 9-0 in Supreme Court cases that he's taken. Master of debate, master of language. I talk about it all the time on here. Language is important. This H.R. 1 bill is actually dubbed the For the People Act. What a great name. They are so good. We need to get on that. We need to get on that. They are so good at that. He goes out here and does the right thing and labels it the Corrupt Politicians Act. You have to fight the language with language. If we just let them run around with the For the People Act, you just get the good press. There's so many people who are swayed by the clickbait, the one-liners, and they don't do the continued research, and people know that and they prey upon it. The Corrupt Politicians Act. Kudos to you. Kudos to you. This is a push for more government, more government, more government, double extra more government. I've been advocating since the election that the states individually need to address this. Prayers being answered. Some are. Texas is going to get some passed shortly. Georgia already got one. Let's see, I'm going to read to you here in a second what the press was saying about it and then compare it to what's actually in the bill. The governor of Georgia himself wrote a piece which was published so he could talk to people about what's actually in the bill. Now pull that one up for you. Governor Brian Kemp, this is his piece here. Georgia's elections law, ignore Dems' false attacks. Here are the facts about the bill that he signed. This is from him. This is an opinion from Brian Kemp. What's actually in it? It expands access to early voting statewide by requiring 2 mandatory Saturdays and allowing local election officials the option of up to 2 Sundays. Sounds like voter suppression. SB 202, this bill that I'm talking about, requires all voters to provide a driver's license or free state ID. Voter suppression. This is the one. This is the one. This is why. They want ID. We'll go back to this one here real quick. What else is in it? For the first time, ballot drop boxes, which were not available to Georgia voters prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, are mandated. Mandated in every county. They're continuing to push falsely that they are removing them. They're mandating them. SB 202 protects polling locations from electioneering by private individuals. This is the one where President Biden wants to say that you can't give people waiting in line water. No, Papa Joe, you keep lying. And the Washington Post even said you were lying because you have also said that they've reduced the amount of time that people could vote, saying that they're shutting down the polls at 5, which is not true. It's 7 o'clock. You're lying. And you've been called out for it by your own left-leaning apparatus. Back to the water, within 150 feet of the building, you cannot approach people. It's pretty standard in some form thereof. They don't want people campaigning. They don't want people pressuring people. They don't want people intimidating people. Outside of 150 feet, go give them some water. Go give them some water. It also requires local election officials to continue tabulating votes until counting is complete. You're going to get counted. He's mandating that it's going to get counted. Another one that's in here that he didn't list is if you are in line before 7 o'clock, Papa Joe wants to say that at 5 it's shutting down. He lies when he says that. It's actually till 7. Not only is voting till 7, he went further to interpret that as if you are in line by 7. If you're in line by 7, you get to vote. And then he mandates, I'm not going to have anybody stop counting until they're all counted. What do the Democrats do? They say that it's voter suppression. It's an attack on voting rights. It's on CNN right now. You can go to CNN right now, and they have it labeled with beautiful graphics. Somebody took time. People reviewed it. They decided this was the one. We're going to put it up. An attack on voting rights because of state ID mandate. That's why. The states have this right. It's in the Constitution. H.R. 1 seeks to remove that right and that power. That's why they don't want it. If not having an ID was so prevalent, nobody is going to be buying cigarettes, alcohol, lotto tickets, adult material. I'll leave that to your own imagination. Houses, cars, getting loans, opening bank accounts, cashing checks, getting medicine. Nobody would be doing any of that. Jim Jordan had a great quote, and some other people did as well. He's a congressman from Ohio. I actually saw him at CPAC. He was a lot shorter than I thought he was. He was kind of a small guy, but I digest. He said that it's racist to want an ID to vote, but not racist to want a vaccine passport. Just put that one, let it rattle around, see if you can figure it out. We know that people here illegally, getting back to the border, which is sort of consuming everything tonight. We know that California's given them licenses. And if you have a license, you get registered. If you're getting any benefits from the government, which illegal aliens are getting in some states, you're registered. That can't possibly be to make sure that they get to vote through H.R. 1. No. Nobody would come here. Listen to me. I'm being dead serious. Nobody would come here illegally and then do anything illegal once they got here. It's just common sense, folks. You're not going to come here illegally and then do illegal things. We know this. We already know that. And who's put the policy in place to make sure that all these people are coming over? Papa Joe. Good old Papa Joe. I don't know if you caught it. Good old Papa Joe put out a new $2.25 trillion infrastructure, $2.25 trillion infrastructure bill. I like infrastructure. I like roads. I like bridges. I like water. I like ports. I like buses. I like trains. I like airports. I like all these things. We're going to get into it here in a minute. Some 6% of that 2.25 actually goes to roads and bridges. That's what I think of. I think of roads and bridges. Some 6%. Good old Papa Joe. Money, money, money. Hubba, hubba, hubba. Who do you love? Name that movie. Name that movie. He got that $1.9 trillion through. Promised people 2,000, gave them 1,400. Lifting people out of poverty somehow. I don't think it worked. Maybe it did. I don't think it worked. It didn't work. He's not going to stop now. Got to strike while that iron is hot. Got to strike while that iron is hot. People are ready. Spend that money. Spend that money. These are investments, by the way. Keep that in mind. These are investments, folks. You're not spending money. We're going to get a return on this. And we're going to get more return than we put out. Let's see what's proposed in this. I got an article here for you on this one, too. Let me pull this one up for you. Okay, this one comes to us from USA Today News. Joe Biden wants to spend $2 trillion on infrastructure. This was written by Javier Zarachina, Joey Garrison, and George Petrus. I hope I said your names correctly. I really do. What's in Joe Biden's plan? According to them, the plan, the centerpiece of Biden's economic agenda, will next need to pass Congress, where Republicans are already lining up against it. You have the transportation infrastructure for $621 billion. Let's break that down a little bit for you. We'll do more of this next week. Electric vehicles and the network of 500,000 electric vehicle stations, $174 billion. Where's that power coming from, by the way? Where's that power come from? Ain't solar power. Can't burn that coal. God forbid we have nuclear. Where's all this power coming from? We hate power. We hate it. Maybe they'll do like what they do in Canada, where they have electric buses, and then electric buses show up to diesel generators. It's one of my favorite things I've ever seen in my life. They're going to modernize bridges. I don't know how you make a bridge more modern, but I guess we'll get some Wi-Fi on the bridge. I don't know what that means. You're going to modernize public transit, and then we're going to double the federal funding because they've done a really good job with that so far. Quality of life at home. Let's see what that is. The plan would spend $213 billion to build, preserve, and retrofit more than 2 million affordable homes and commercial buildings. Let's talk about that one a little bit more. We need to dive into this a little bit more. We're going to improve the electric grid. I'm sure that's going to be transparent. That's $100 billion. Caregivers and elderly and disabled, we're going to, by federal mandate, increase the pay for those workers. I guess we're going to mandate that. There's so much more. I'm going to give you guys some more time on that. We're running a little bit low on time, and I still got to get to that good news. I told you I'd give you good news. It's an absolute disaster. It's a spending bill. It is not for infrastructure. It's for more government. It's for more government takeover. And again, you're telling me this guy who's been in office in some capacity for 47 years, who's never advocated for anything like this before, is the one who's coming up with this. You tell me that, and I'll believe you. You could sell me a modern bridge. See what I did there? I brought that back. I'm good like that. Let me ask you this. Quick question. All this modernization of bridges and roads and all these beautiful things we're going to build and railways, who's going to build it? Who's going to build it? I don't know, a few million people with no discernible skills or education that may have recently got here. You don't even need to speak Spanish or English or any sort of dialect. You could just dig, right? Maybe people who just got here. Maybe they need a job. Maybe they could build roads. I don't know. I'm not saying, I'm just saying, Papa Joe, can you be transparent with us? Can you be honest? Can you stop spending money? Was that 4 stupid questions? I believe that was 4 stupid questions. Like I said, there's a lot more. We'll break it down. Follow me on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, at 2CentKSJ. I'm sure Juan is putting this across the bottom. What I do want to touch on real quick before we get to the good news, we got about 5 or 6 more minutes. What I do want to get on is how you're going to pass this. Because right now, my savvy followers know that we have a 50-50 in the Senate. They're going to pass whatever they want through the House. We got a 50-50 at the Senate. You need 60, right? We need that 60 vote threshold. We got to get there. Actually, it's 66. You need 2/3. Well, they have this neat little gift called budget reconciliation. So in fairness, Trump used it to get the tax cuts passed. They used it for the $1.9 trillion relief. They're going to use it again here. Essentially what it does is it allows them to pass anything that has to do with budget or deficit or so on with a pure majority. So you just need 51. Well, if we have 50 and they have 50, we got a deadlock, right? No, unfortunately, the president of the Senate, who's probably going to be president of the United States by October, is the casting vote. So it looks like they're just going to push this one through. This is why we're supposed to get bipartisanship in what we're doing. I'm not going to sit here and advocate for full conservative principles, absolute capitalist competition in everything that we do, because too much of that is not right. Which is why I could stand firmly on my own 2 feet and say I can't advocate for pure liberalism, liberal policies, liberal spending. Because I could be honest and say, I don't want 100% of my side. And that always comes from me saying, I don't want you to ever have 100% of your side. This is not your beloved democracy. This is what's called tyranny of the majority. We've talked about that on this show before. Tyranny of the majority. If 51% of the people want your bike, they take your bike. That's what they're doing here. I'm really envious, actually. I want you guys to go back to the beginning of President Trump's term. He was trying to pass the border wall. We had the House. We had the Senate. Congressman, I believe from Wisconsin, Paul Ryan, would not take up a vote to fund the wall. Democrats get in, whatever they want. And we're all going to say yes, except for perhaps Manchin or Sinema. Manchin's from West Virginia. Sinema's from Arizona. They're sort of our last bastions of hope. But I think they'll cave. I think they're going to cave. I'm envious. I'm not joking. Republicans can't unify like this. We can't be of one hive mind. And it's unfortunate. It really is unfortunate. Paul Ryan, that's on you. We don't have the wall because of you. What else do they want to pass? We got a little bit of time. I think we got a little bit of time on this one. We got a little bit of time. What else do they want to pass? Common sense gun reform. In the wake of any mass shootings, this happens. It's always mass shootings immediately followed by common sense gun reform. Real quick, what counts as a mass shooting? 4 or more. Why is that important? That's important because when you go to 3, you introduce a whole new group to who's doing the shooting. I'm going to dance around this one, but we're going to get into it by citing a CNN article here in a moment. When you lower it to 2 or 3 people, there are certain instances in certain areas. These areas are usually heavily Democrat-controlled areas. These are usually places that already have very strict gun laws. They made a mistake. Somebody over at CNN actually did some journalisming. I stole that from, I think Ben Shapiro says that one. They've actually done some journalisming here, and it shows they have a narrative problem. It shows they have a narrative problem. Let me pull it up for you. We got a little bit of time. I really want to get into this one for you real quick. So they want to make a point that there's a lot of mass shootings going on, but unfortunately, they then have to talk about where those mass shootings happened. Headline from Madeline Holcomb over at CNN, at least 20 mass shootings have taken place in the 2 weeks since the Metro Atlanta spa attacks left 8 dead. Real quick, I'm going to break down some of them for you. March 31st, Orange, California, basically LA. 4 people, including a child, were killed. March 31st, Washington, D.C., heavily gun-controlled. 5 people were shot. March 28th, Cleveland, Ohio, high gun control. March 28th, Chicago, Illinois, which is a war zone, high gun control. Essex, Maryland, near Baltimore, high gun control. Chicago, high gun control. Yazoo City, Mississippi, I have no idea where that is. March 27th, River Gorge, Illinois. That's a made-up place. I looked it up. It's a made-up place. I don't know what happened. Well, maybe they misspelled something. March 26th, Virginia Beach. That's not quite Northern Virginia, but it's pretty close. Again, Chicago, Illinois. Again, Norfolk. Memphis, Tennessee. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Aliceville, Alabama. Boulder, Colorado. Philadelphia again. Dallas, Houston, Oregon, Stockton. And then Atlanta, Georgia. They got a big old picture here of where it happened. Of all the ones that I just read to you, this is the only one that mentions the race of some of the victims and the race of the gunman. Go back and take a look yourself. Factually correct. I'm citing an article. 8 people, including 6 Asian women, were killed when a white gunman stormed the spas, the police said. It's pretty gross. It's pretty gross. No mention of the race in any of these other ones. Thought we wouldn't notice? I noticed. It's pretty gross. It's absolutely pretty gross. Let's see what we got for time. I got a little bit more time for you. You know what? I hit my limit. I promised you good news. I had people over here tell me they thought I was fired up. I'm pretty fired up. I've got really good news. I think we did pretty well tonight. I wasn't sure that we had enough. And then, of course, as usual, we were up against it. So come back next week. We're going to have a lot more to talk about. I do this every week, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, Right America Media on Facebook, ramtv.live. Here's my 2 cents on Facebook. I promise you good news. I've been stretching it along. Due to my followers on TikTok, a great content creator, young, bright, intelligent, motivated, and highly accomplished writer for Daily Wire named Chrissy Clark. Look her up on all the platforms. Incredibly intelligent, very good at what she does. She was asking for your favorite conservative content creator. I went to you all. I said, blow her up. Let her know about your boy. 2 Cent, we were already following each other. And you can't go into her comment section and scroll and not see 2 Cent. It's 2 Cent, 2 Cent, some random person. 2 Cent, 2 Cent, 2 Cent. Much bigger name. 2 Cent, 2 Cent, 2 Cent, 2 Cent. So as a result of you all here, thank you so much. I was interviewed yesterday by Chrissy Clark from the Daily Wire. If you don't know the Daily Wire, you need to because it's Ben Shapiro's outlet. I was interviewed, and I'm going to be featured along with some other creators in an article to come out in 2 weeks. So things are happening around here. She was absolutely a pleasure to talk to. I hope that I get to talk to her some more in the future. I'll keep you guys updated over here. I'm going to be featured in dailywire.com, the outlet started and ran by Ben Shapiro. Some good news. I told you we'd have good news tonight. With all that being said, that has been my 2 cents on money, 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 spend, spend, spend. Have a good night.
Hey, this is Josh Barnes with Point of View, where we discuss the crucial questions that you have about the critical issues of our day from a biblical worldview. We believe that to be right about issues, you're going to have to be biblical about issues. Check out Point of View every Monday from 4 to 6 p.m. and every Tuesday night from 8 to 8:30 right here on Right America Media Network at ramtv.live. Join us for the next episode of Point of View and let the Bible change your perspective.
Murder in the streets of D.C., the dangers of the COVID vaccine, and the George Floyd trial. This is The Loaded Mic, and I'm Dan Waz. You're listening to The Loaded Mic. The 66-year-old Uber Eats driver, Muhammad Anwar, was killed in Washington, D.C. by two black teens. The 13 and 15-year-old females carjacked Muhammad, armed with tasers, crashing the car and killing him. The two teens were illegally in possession of the taser, while Muhammad was not allowed to carry a firearm to be able to protect himself. Watch this.
This is my car. He said it's his car. He used their phone. No, this is my car. The one. Shut it! She's stealing their car. He's stealing the car? Yeah, we called the cops. Call the cops. Call the cops.
These two teens are a product of a failed left-wing city and bad parenting. After the killing, one of the two young females was more concerned with the fact that her phone was in the victim's car rather than the life she just took. Check this out.
That's it. Everybody's up. Everybody step back from the car. I'm going to need everybody to step back from the car. No.
Democrat Mayor of Washington, D.C., Muriel Bowser, put the responsibility on the victim when she said, quote, "Auto theft is a crime of opportunity. Follow these steps to reduce the risk of your vehicle becoming a target," end quote. She was referring to locking your car and not walking away while your car is running. Not one word of condemnation for the two killers. That wouldn't be good for the racial political element, always at the forefront of the Democrat agenda. Not one word about the fact that the victim was rendered helpless due to radical, politically driven anti-gun policies. And this from a mayor who presides over a city that has defunded its police department. So here we have a good person trying to make a living in a corrupt city where police protection is severely limited and violent behavior runs rampant, while the mayor and Democrat legislators put the blame on the victim to distract from their own failures. The Uber policy clearly discourages its drivers to be able to defend themselves. Uber takes a strong stance against self-defense. A quote from Uber states, quote, "Uber prohibits riders and partners from carrying firearms of any kind in a vehicle while using the app, to the extent permitted by applicable law," end quote. Because Democrats in Washington, D.C. have defunded the police department, they make it an environment friendly to criminals like these two selfish killers and very dangerous for law-abiding citizens. How are good people supposed to live in a radical, dangerous left-wing environment like this? Truth is, your time is limited in these areas, and your life is at a much higher risk. We already know that the national average chance of you becoming a victim of a violent crime is 1 in 300. In cities like Muriel Bowser's D.C., it would appear your odds are even much worse. The combination of the dangerous environment Democrats are creating in our country and the lack of discipline, caring, and morals some children are being raised with is contributing to the downfall of our society. When Democrats and the media cover up the real problem because they're afraid to point out the crimes of certain racial groups while protecting their own dangerous and horrible policies, they end up dragging our society down. This particular incident points out the glaring truth that left-wing policies will be the death of our country. In this particular case, we see three very distinctive policies coming together as the cause of the death of this innocent man. Number one, the racial bias of the mayor and media encourages this type of behavior because the violent actors are never called out and held accountable. 2, the defunding of the police departments enables horrible people to do horrible things because no one is there to stop them. And 3, the disarming of lawful citizens makes them vulnerable in an already toxic environment, leaving them unarmed and helpless. So how can anyone in their right mind support the policies of these blue states and blue city governors and mayors? We see the results, yet mainstream media has been very successful in convincing people that what they're seeing with their own eyes is not reality, all to support a political agenda. Muriel Bowser has failed miserably, and the left-wing media should be ashamed of itself for not calling out the real problems we have in our society. Until we, law-abiding, Constitution-loving Americans, stand up and change things, left-wingers will turn our country into a hellhole. We're here with John Chiara to talk about this exact topic. Hi, John.
Hey, Dan.
How are you today?
You just came back from vacation or something.
I did, and thank you for...
You're looking thinner, too.
Thank you. Well, thanks. Losing weight.
There you go.
I got a little sun.
There you go.
We were in Florida, spent some time there. I got a little sunburn, but that went away now. The weather was great, and the state is wide open. So no mandates of any kind, and everybody's fine. Everybody's going about their lives like they're normal human beings, so they're fine. And we went up to South Carolina for a couple days. That was pretty good. That's where you start to get kind of this 50-50 mix of sort of mass.
And that's the problem, right?
Yeah.
I mean, until everybody's open, so many
Right.
things are on hold. Like I work in audio production and tours and things like that. Until the whole country's open, they can't really plan anything long term. So it's pretty stifling.
Yeah, it is. You're right. And it's interesting, though, because in places like South Carolina, you'll see people on kind of both sides of this shutdown sort of mentality. And some people are like, no, there's no more shutdown. We're wide open, want to do our thing. And everybody's fine. You go down to Florida, there's no problem. People aren't getting sick. It's just, it's okay down there. And then we spent a little time in North Carolina. North Carolina starts to get a little bit more liberal with their policies, so it starts to get a little more restrictive as you come up the coast. And then obviously we're up here in New York, where it's, Cuomo country. It's freaking terrible. But anyway, but
back to what you were saying about how, because I've just noticed something in the last couple of days, how the liberal media is just not letting us know stuff that's happening.
Not even talking
that we should know, right? If we're going to get information, we should be able to get all the information, and not to target any groups, but the news should be the news. Tell us what's going on so we can decide, what actions we might want to take.
They're afraid that if they give us just the data, that we're going to form the logical opinion, because the logical opinion usually goes against what the agenda is that they're trying to pursue. So that's why everything in the media seems to have to be manipulated to create, to push you in a certain direction and get you to look at it from a certain perspective. Just tell me what happened. Tell me, okay, this is what happened, like with this particular thing we're talking about, with this attack. Give me the data. I can decide for myself, right?
Where somebody died, we should have that information, right? That just seems normal. I mean, we're hearing all kinds of stuff about the George Floyd trial stuff, this, that, everybody's opinion on stuff and everything else, and then something like this happens. And as I was telling you earlier, a week and a half ago, there was an FBI raid right in Albany, New York, and because they didn't have a press release, it wasn't on the news.
Yeah.
Drugs, firearms, all kinds of stuff that was discovered, obviously a planned raid, so they must have had info on it and stuff, but why can't we know about that stuff? And we're more worried about, and you have 4-year-olds in Albany finding community guns and shooting people, and that's hardly anything on the news, right? And yet...
I'll tell you why, because it all comes back to blame. So if there's a problem, something happened, a killing or whatever it was, smart people, normal people who can think this stuff through will look at the thing that happened and say, okay, well, how did that occur? What caused that? And what caused that? And what caused that? And what caused that? And you follow this very simple, basic trail of how it happened. So you're getting to the cause of the problem.
Right.
They don't want you to get to the cause of the problem, because once you get to the cause of the problem, you know what you're going to find? Democrats with a freaking policy that failed.
Right. And hopefully a way to fix that. But if you never get to the cause, you never get to the fix. You just get to the theatrics and the signaling and stuff around the outside of it all. It's pretty sad. It's deep. Because like we've said, even people that aren't professional news people or otherwise are all on board with this because they've been programmed the last 4 years have programmed everyone so much so that all they have to do now is put a topic out there and everybody's off and running on it.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like autopilot, and it's bad because it's hard to talk somebody out of that because they're not even sure why they were talked into it. They just think that that's the way it is.
Well, I was talking to somebody, and we were talking about the vaccine. And my position on the vaccine is the longer people don't get the vaccine, the more they're starting to see side effects coming out. The more they're getting more information. Sure. So it seems to be important for the people who want everybody to be vaccinated to get everybody vaccinated as quickly as possible. But what's happening is people are starting to resist. They're going, well, wait a minute, I'm not so sure. I'm seeing this and that. Maybe it's good, maybe it's not, but I think I'm going to hold off a little bit longer and just wait and see if there's any side effects that come out. I'm not saying the vaccine is, don't get it. Do whatever you want, but people are starting to think about it and look at it logically. It may be good for them, it may not. But the problem is, I was talking to someone and they said, almost like an argument, like I was just making a point that it's primarily Democrats who want to do this and want the vaccine out, and the left wing with the mask and their whole mask brigade and the whole thing seems to be a big left wing kind of thing going on there. Anyway, so this person says, well, Trump wanted the vaccine too. And I'm like, yeah, well, okay. So can I not agree with Trump on something? Yeah, I can not agree. That's okay. That doesn't mean that just because, and here's my point, it doesn't mean that just because Trump said something that all conservatives or Republicans are going to go toward that. That's what they think. They think anything Trump says, everybody's going to gravitate toward it and
go out and shoot the police. Okay, here we go. Like, come on.
Well, this is the mindset of the left-wing liberals. They think, and I have a theory on this too, they think that all people on the right are going to do whatever Trump says. And maybe it's their own projection because they fall right in line with the left.
Absolutely. That's the behavior they think is normal.
Yeah.
That's how you should act, right?
Right. Fall in line. And the thing that they don't realize is that conservatives don't follow. Actually getting conservatives all on the same page is like herding cats.
It's tough. Well, they don't want to be told what to do.
Exactly.
That's part of the basic nature. That's the whole part of the
and we have different views within our,
Sure.
But the people on the left, many of them, I shouldn't say all, but many of them just don't get it. They think that, oh, well, Trump said this, so why aren't you jumping on board with Trump? Because I don't agree with it. Is that okay?
Drink some bleach.
Right, drink some exactly. Drink some bleach. So that's it. I have nothing else to say. We're done. Unless you come up with
getting your vaccine? Yeah. Well, you thought you had it last year anyway, right?
Yeah, I had it.
A lot of people I know have had it.
I had it. I'm
but
sure.
But even then, they say you should still get vaccinated because you could get it again.
Oh well,
you never know.
I'll take that chance. I had. We thought it was the flu. Kicked my ass for almost 2 weeks, and it was okay. Got done with it, and that was it. And at the time, nobody knew what it was.
That was Super Bowl last year, right?
Super Bowl,
yeah, that was last February.
So thought it was just a bad flu. Mm-hmm. Okay, fine. We moved on. Now, now after everything has pretty much died down, as far as I can see, it's not the pandemic that they claim it is. At least if it is, I'm not seeing it. I mean, like, people aren't dying all around me. I don't see that happening. I think it seems like trying to hold it up, hold this thing up for some other purpose. What are your thoughts?
We'll see what happens in Florida and places like that, right? I mean, we're just gonna, sooner or later, they're not going to be able to deny whatever is happening or not happening.
Yeah.
Sooner or later.
If people are going to get sick, well, I would have think that down in Florida and Texas and places like that they'd already be sick, right? I mean, wouldn't you start to see those numbers? It's been months.
I'm not schooled up on it enough to actually know, but I would think that if that was the case, first of all, that would be all over the front page news, right? If
If
Florida's up 20%,
they would eat that like candy.
Right,
oh,
exactly.
God. If Florida's numbers went up, or Texas is, well, see, now here's another thing. There's another angle on Texas. But if Florida went up, you can bet the mainstream media would be all over it. Florida's up. People aren't wearing masks. Anti-vaxxers and all this stuff. They'd go, and the funny thing is that they call people who don't want to put that stuff in their bloodstream, they call them conspiracy theorists.
Right.
But yet the people who are running for this vaccine that they've been taught to fear this virus, they're not the conspiracy theorists. They're going by science. But when you look at the situation and you really kind of step back and you look at it from an outside perspective, you got to look and say, well, wait a minute. I see a bunch of people who are hesitant and concerned about this vaccine that hasn't been FDA approved, hasn't been trialed, it hasn't. Logical thinking people, you would think, right? And then I look at these people who are fearful, wearing 2 masks. I saw a woman wearing 2 masks, goggles, and a shield.
Cool.
And you look at these people, and somehow the people who want to live normal are the conspiracy theorists? I don't get it. To me, it's the maskers and the vaxxers that are the conspiracy people. I think they've taken the hook, line, and sinker, and now they want to eat the boat.
Eat the boat.
What are your thoughts?
I also, just to go back to the beginning of this, talking about the cause, is that there's 2 conflicting reports out right now. Like the former head of the CDC is reflecting what Brett Weinstein and his wife Heather been talking about for months, about how all the evidence that they can see biologically points to this escaping from a lab.
Okay.
Because even if it transferred from an animal to a human.
Yeah, this is a whole other topic of this discussion.
Right, but this is the same kind of rhetoric we're getting to confuse us to not even be able to talk about what makes sense if we're going to follow the science. When viruses move from animals to people, which they do from pigs, and usually from birds, that's why the avian flu is big. Most viruses come from birds. That's how they.
What about the mad cow disease and stuff?
Well, that was mad cow because cows were eating other cows. That's how they got the mad cow. But the point is, when a virus is changing from infecting one species to another species, that process takes a long time before it gets good at it. Like somebody doesn't get a virus from a bat. That's a bat virus, and all of a sudden
it's rampant.
Typhoid Mary. You know what I
Right.
mean? That's not how it works. It takes time for that virus to figure out how to change to infect humans more efficiently, right? So the fact that this didn't take any time at all, unless people were sick way before they thought they were, it almost definitely came from a lab, according to the biologists.
Yeah.
And the former head of the CDC confirmed that yesterday. So later yesterday, the World Health Association comes out and says there's no way this came from a lab. So it's like there's like automatically a pushback every time somebody says anything that might be different science to follow. The establishment comes out and blasts you and say, don't believe all that. Not that it even matters, right? I mean, at this point, who cares where it came from? I mean, if you're going to go after those people, maybe whatever. But I mean, experimenting with viruses is a normal part of the process for a lot of labs around the world because they might be weaponizing it. They might be who knows what,
Yeah.
But the point is, again, is you can't get straight information out of anything. Or all the information that is put up is stuff that looks like it's made to confuse us so that we can't really tell what's going on, which I think that's how they want us, right? Confused and follow the pack. Just do what everybody tells you to do.
Yeah, and I think the resistance is starting to show. You're starting to see the resistance, not only with the masks. Well, you're seeing the resistance with the mask wearing. People are starting to say, like, this has just gone on too long. This is just getting stupid now, and people are just refusing to wear a mask. And I think that's fine. I think that's great. But they're also starting to build. They're also starting to resist the vaccine. You're seeing a lot of stuff, especially when they come out. Krispy Kreme. Did you hear about Krispy Kreme?
You said something about
Krispy Kreme is offering free donuts to you if you get the vaccine, and a free donut every day for, I don't know, a year or whatever it was, to encourage you to get the vaccine. Why would they have to do that? Why do you think they would have to do that? Why would they have to offer people donuts to get a vaccine? Want the answer? I'll give you the answer.
Go ahead.
All right. Here's the answer. Because people don't want to get the vaccine.
Well, yeah, right. It's a reward, right?
It's a reward.
It's like giving kids free ice cream when they walk in with their softball outfit
right.
at the ice cream store and stuff.
And so people are, right now, we're watching in the media a marketing campaign. Really, I think.
Well, that's all the news basically is.
Well, that's true.
It's a narrative marketing machine, and that's it. But the thing of it is that you and I pretty much view it that way. So you start questioning stuff right off the bat. Red flags start going up, right? But most people watch it and go, "Oh,
yeah,
okay,
so I better
gotta get the vaccine. I got to eat this kind of ice cream. I got to do this."
But they don't necessarily look at all the information because, first of all, they don't believe that they're only getting half the story. That's the biggest part of the problem.
They're informed, right?
They think they're
believe
informed.
They're informed.
And anything that counteracts or contradicts, rather, to what they're seeing on their mainstream media, they've been taught to believe that that's just nonsense. That's just conspiracy. That's right-wing conspiracy stuff. But the truth is, they really should watch some of that stuff because they're the ones who are being taken for a ride, and they refuse to look.
Well, and that's human nature, and that's how the media works. I mean, basically, they've been conditioned to think that they're right because they have less information than the rest of the people, and that's the way it should be. And anybody who doesn't agree with that is wrong, regardless of what kind of information. So you never even get to the information part half the time, right?
Right.
It's just the opinion. You start fighting right off the bat, and that's what the media wants. Everybody's fighting right off the bat, whether it's vaccines, whether it's mileage tax, whether it's, alternative energy, regardless of what it is that you just come out swinging, and that's the way everything functions. But nobody learns anything that way.
Nobody learns it. And you know what? I'd be the first to admit if I believed the vaccine was good after getting all the information and everything pointed toward vaccine good.
But that information won't even exist for a year. So that information is not available. So to be skeptical of that is logical, I would say.
I think so. I mean, who wants to put that stuff in their bloodstream? If you're getting counteracting data that's telling you don't do that,
skin falls off.
Did you see about the guy's skin fell off?
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Kind of weird. Yeah, take a vaccine, your skin falls off. That's a Anthony. What do you think about Anthony's here in the studio?
Isn't there a song about that?
Isn't there? What do you think? Anthony, what do you think about the guy's skin falling off?
It happens.
It happens.
We don't have a camera, so Anthony didn't dress for today, but just to let everybody
He's
know.
in his pajamas. Anthony's in his pajamas.
That's like those little slippers you got there. Did Kate give you those?
All right, we'll get another camera in here next week, but well, I don't know before we got on the Anthony and his slippers. Where were we?
Less information. People think they're right. Everybody's judging everybody, and the media just keeps pounding and pounding and pounding. Kids in cages. What do you got going on?
Oh, we can talk about kids in cages. But I wanted to touch on one thing. I mentioned Texas, and I wanted to get back to that. We talked about Florida and Texas being open as far as mask mandates and whatever, social distancing and all that stuff. Well, so Florida is one situation where I think what we're going to see over the course of the next couple months, nothing. I think Florida's going to probably be fine.
Right.
They're not stupid down there. The governor knows what's going on. He's communicating with the health department. They know what's going on. He wouldn't just let everything be wide open if he didn't.
Well, he couldn't be able to because if there was actual numbers to the contrary, we would know about it.
That's
right?
what I mean. That's what I mean. So what we're going to see, I believe, in Florida is nothing.
Right.
I think it's going to just be fine. And so the mainstream media and the left wing is not going to be able to pounce on Florida. Oh, look what happened. They didn't wear their mask. Look at Florida. They're not going to be able to do it. I don't think. I could be wrong, but I don't think. So Texas might be different, though. Texas is kind of the same way from what I understand. They're kind of open. Mm-hmm. But what's also happening in Texas? You're getting all these illegal immigrants coming up with all sorts of, who knows what they got? All sorts of third world diseases.
Right.
Let alone.
So how does that figure
COVID.
into the picture of what Texas is going to look like?
So Texas might have a different problem on their hands. And it's not because of the virus being weak or strong rather. It's probably going to be because just of all the people that they're letting in, that, you know, Slow Joe is letting in through the
Or
border.
they have no idea.
Who knows?
Who's
These
infected.
people they're swimming across a freaking filthy river to get there. They're going through the woods. They're going through, you know, who knows what they're traveling through. They're not.
Well, I don't even know how they screen people at the border for that anyway. I mean, they have to screen them somehow.
Do they?
Well, they do. Put them in cages.
They throw them in Biden's cages.
Give them some tinfoil and throw them in cages.
What's with those tinfoil? We talked about this. I
Well,
think
those
it's
are
a blanket. There's
those
like
are space blankets. I used to have those in Boy Scouts when I was.
Are they warm?
14. Well, they're reflective. They reflect your body heat.
Oh,
But I mean, you can't lay out the snow with them, you know, because
Oh.
they're not insulating. They just reflect the body heat. So that's what it is.
well. Anytime I have a question on tinfoil blankets, I'll.
Just let me know. I have experience camping with the tinfoil.
So what was the other thing you wanted to talk about? You mentioned just a minute ago before we got on to Texas.
I don't know.
Oh boy, are we that?
Kids in cages.
Oh,
What was that?
I think we wanted to talk about kids in cages. Yeah,
Ted
And
Cruz.
Ted Cruz, I think he's great.
Please respect the people. The lady with the thing on. She
Oh, I
kept
didn't
saying
see-
the same. Did you see the video? of Ted
No.
Cruz with his cell phone. Oh my God. Damn.
Do we have a video? Can we
gotta
play that
find
video?
that.
There's a
I
pandemic.
respectfully ask you, sir.
There is a pandemic.
With
Is
full-hearted,
this respecting the rights of these
full-heartedly,
kids?
I ask you, please
Are you
respect
respecting the
people.
rights of these
This
kids?
is not a zoo, sir. Please don't treat the people.
You're right, and this is a
As such.
dangerous place.
Please don't treat the
And
people
your
like
policies,
this. That's all I ask for
unfortunately,
you,
are
sir.
trying to hide them. I understand
That's
you
all
were
I ask
instructed
you.
when 18
I
senators
ask you
came
to
down
please
here.
respect the people, give them dignity
I
and
respect them, and I
respect.
want to fix this situation.
We all wanna
and
fix
the
this, sir. We
administration
don't
you're
want
working
this to
for is
happen anymore.
responsible for these conditions.
So he's there with the phone, and the lady's just moving in front of his face, saying, "Please respect the people. Please, please. That's all I ask is that you." And she kept saying the same thing over and over and over. I mean, if I was there, I would be tempted to just go, you know, because it was just so annoying. And she wasn't saying anything, and he was just going, "Well, this is not safe. This is not good. We have a right to know about this."
Yeah.
So she's standing there talking to Ted Cruz, and she had just been appointed like 2 weeks earlier or something. She was the person in charge down there.
Yeah.
Well, as we saw in the video, she was standing in his way. So it's pretty fun.
Well, and another thing that Ted Cruz did, which I thought was kind of funny, he was giving some kind of press conference, and somebody said they wanted him to wear his mask.
Right.
Remember that one?
Yeah.
So and Ted's like, "No, I'm not going to wear a mask.
I've been
vaccinated. You can step aside. You know, go away." I would have probably said the same thing. It's just, it's not even really about, at this point, I don't think it's about people really being concerned with their own health. Because if they were really concerned with their own health, they wouldn't be out in
stay
public.
home.
They'd stay home. And I know there's some old people who are really concerned and scared, unnecessarily, in my opinion, that are staying home.
Right.
But
that's their choice, which they should be
And
able
that's
to make,
fine.
and that makes sense for them
Yeah.
if they're scared. If you're personally scared, stay home.
stay the hell home.
That's all.
But don't come out into my public sphere and tell me what to do.
Well, also, no, I just thought of something else we can veer off on.
All right.
I had a discussion yesterday with somebody complaining about, well, during the whole COVID thing, all these billionaires made all this money, blah, blah, blah. It's a big conspiracy, this and that. And I said, okay, so all the stores were closed except for Walmart and Amazon. So everybody that was going to buy anything for 8 months, where were they going to buy it?
Right.
They couldn't go to a store. They couldn't go to the mall. So they bought it online. Guess who owns Amazon?
Yeah.
Guess who owns Walmart?
And-
all the billionaires. So I'm like, the money was spent and they got the money because nobody was allowing, the governors weren't allowing the local businesses to make that money. So there's a double fold thing against what you're saying, not in favor of what you're
So
saying.
who was this person aiming their anger at? The
Billionaires,
the
of
billionaires.
course.
But did they go to the store to buy their groceries?
I'm sure they did.
Did they
whatever-
buy anything on
I'm sure
Amazon
they
while
did
everything else was
whatever
shut
they had to do. But it's different for them.
These people are so insane. And the problem is they just don't see things. They don't look at things through just a perspective of data and logic. Everything is viewed through a perspective of ideological preference.
It's just
and-
signaling to other people, and they think that's what's important. But when it comes right down to it, because if you could hold people accountable, if you could say, okay, you want this to happen? Okay, well, in that case, you have to give up your cell phone. Are you good with that? No.
Right.
So there's always a consequence, and this is what really kills me about the left in general, is that they just never consider like with the mileage tax. Oh, we'll do this. This will be great. Really? What about the Uber drivers and the truckers and everybody else who's paying fuel tax? Now, on top of that, they have to pay a mileage tax. Don't you think that's going to raise prices on everything, including what you buy? It's so shallow.
Oh, that's another whole thing to this conversation. I love this conversation because what we can talk about now is the idea that these anti-capitalists, these anti-big government people, want to raise the minimum wage, and they're either ignorant of it or they willfully ignore it. The fact that the companies are going to just raise your prices.
Not even a question.
Do they honestly think that they're going to outsmart these big companies and make them suffer by raising the minimum and let the company take the hit? Do they honestly think that the company is in a position where they have to take the hit?
They must, because they're employees. They know better.
Well, so now we talk about the mindset of an employee versus a mindset of an entrepreneur or business owner or whatever. You're a business owner. What happens when people do? Okay, so for instance, I know you do audio engineering. So if people don't know, you mix bands, you do recordings, studio recordings, and things like that. It's your audio work. So do you work primarily on an hourly rate?
In the studio, yes.
In the studio, okay. So when someone comes in and they show up a half hour late after their scheduled time, tell me how that all works. How's the conversation when they show up a half hour late? What do they expect from you?
That conversation doesn't come up because I realize from all the years of experience, for example, I have a client who came in last week, haven't seen him in about a month, who is epileptic, I just found out. I thought he had some schizophrenia. I thought he had some other mental issues going on, but anyway. So he's in the situation again where he's making 5 to 6 times as much money on unemployment as he was working one day a week as a dishwasher at Denny's or something.
Okay.
Right? So that whole thing, part of that is
he doesn't want to go back
scheduled
to work.
for 12 o'clock.
Oh.
Shows up at 1:15. 5 texts. I'm on my way. I'm on my way.
Okay.
I'm on my way. Never mentions that, gee, I'm sorry I'm late. Never even comes into the conversation. Right?
Does he expect to pay for that hour and 15?
Actually, he paid for more than the time that he was there
Okay.
the last time. But it's almost like I feel myself like that's my charity contribution to something somewhere.
So you're willing to eat that cost? Charge him from the hour and 15 that he showed up?
Yeah, because I know that if I push the issue that he's not even going to understand what I'm talking about because he's not capable of contemplating that. So for me, it's basically I understand that I'm not going to make a lot of money on it, but he's another person that in the beginning was good, and then because probably, and maybe it's my fault for not holding his feet to the fire. Like if you don't show up on time, I'm not booking any more sessions for you. I'm going to tell him that the next time because I just can't. I can't sit around for an hour and a half waiting for somebody to show up.
Yeah, well, not only that, but that hour and a half, you could be making money.
I make nothing, right?
So that's the point I guess I was trying to make. You're too kind. I wouldn't be that kind. I would if somebody was scheduled at 12 and they showed up at 1, they'd pay for 12. Right? I mean, doesn't that
if somebody is scheduled after them, if I was like a doctor and I had a real schedule, you wouldn't even let them in, right?
Yeah.
You're paying your default fee, your penalty because you didn't show up. I don't know, a lot of times I've had to pay $25, $50 to a doctor because I didn't show up.
Yeah.
So, that's how the real world works. So I am lenient on that kind of stuff.
You're very lenient.
But other stuff, like with live audio stuff, usually they're paying
X amount of dollars for a
day rate. Yeah. So it doesn't really come into question.
All right, well, we got to take a break, so we'll get back to it in a second.
I'm Danny Wash Jr., producer of The Loaded Mic. I just wanted to let you know that you can find us at Simul TV, Right America Media, YouTube, and Rumble. You can also find the podcast at Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play. Or you can go to loadedmic.com. Remember to like, share, subscribe, and leave a review.
The Second Amendment is a priority at the Loaded Mic. If we don't defend the right to keep and bear arms, there are people who are happy to violate it. The strategies and tactics of the anti-gun crowd and politicians are sinister, and we need to understand those tactics. I wrote the Good Gun, Bad Guy book series as the rule book to their evil game, so we can understand their strategies and motives to defeat them. Understand the mindset of the anti-gunner in Book 1. Learn the media strategies behind the gun grab in Book 2. And understand the politics behind their mission in Book 3. Go to goodgunbadguy.com. Governor Cuomo has now 10 accusers. Is that true?
That's what we have today, I think. Yeah.
So I heard this theory that who's that chick from Sex and the City? Isn't she? Are they talking about putting her in as governor somehow?
Oh, the red-haired chick there.
Yeah.
Cynthia Nixon.
Cynthia Nixon.
Right.
I don't know where I heard it, and this is just
Well, she was gonna
purely
run.
gossip. Oh, she was running. Yeah, she was going to run.
4
That's
years
right.
ago, she was going to run. Right.
So the theory was that the lefties are going to come out and start attacking Cuomo now with more of these sexual harassment allegations, just because they want somebody even more radical left wing than him, and it would be her. That Cynthia. What's her name? Cynthia Nixon.
Nixon.
Yeah. So, hey, frankly, I don't care how Cuomo's removed as long as he's removed, but he should be held accountable for the nursing home deaths, in my opinion. Whether or not these accusations of sexual harassment are true or not, or some of them are true and some of them aren't, I don't know. I don't care.
They're like the racketeering charge that they get people on. Like, I can't get them for whatever else they did wrong, right? I don't know how the nursing home thing would play out, though. I mean, how would they actually prove what? That's got to be that would be a long, ongoing thing. I would think.
Well, and part of the reason I think that they're trying to avoid that and focus on these sexual harassment cases is because Newsom in California and Whitmer in Michigan did the same thing. They were doing the same thing.
Right. Well, no, see, part of the argument I've heard of that is that from the perspective of the nursing home, the people that were in the nursing home, when they took them out of the nursing home because they were sick or whatever, like, do you want to send your 85-year-old mother to Long Island to go live on the Hope ship or to live in the Javits Center? Like, is that something that might be traumatic to these people or something? You know what I mean? That's the family aspect of it.
Okay.
Like, they're going back home is where they were going.
Yeah.
Where they know everybody and everything else. Do we want to disrupt them and throw them into a whole different, transport them halfway across the state and all other stuff? So I don't know how the logistics of that would have worked if it was going to be done differently. Or if they could have set up separate facilities.
Yeah. Well, it probably wouldn't have been comfortable at all for the people.
Right.
To move a completely different location.
But they might not have been dead.
But they might not have been dead.
Or the other people might not have been dead.
And is that what they're going on? Is that their excuse for doing it?
No, well, there was just one aspect of it that I heard somebody was throwing out different variables of what might have been.
Well, that might be a possibility.
Might have had to happen, and how would that happen if it did have to happen? Like, that might have been a solution, but would that have worked or would it not have worked?
Well, that's probably a possibility. The problem comes when you find out later on that Cuomo was hiding the numbers. And
that's the worst part of it.
They even came out and said, we didn't want to give you the real numbers because it wouldn't look good.
But see, that's the whole argument with a lot of this government stuff, state and national, is that we need transparency. Otherwise, there's no credibility, right? Because critical thinking people are going to look at that and go, what's up with that?
Right.
Why didn't they tell us what the information was so we could know and make our own choices? It's pretty disrespectful to the normal citizens, I think, a lot of this. They're just expecting people to be dumb and go along with whatever they're told, and I don't see how that makes us a better state or a better country.
The truth is there are a lot of people who will. They are dumb.
Absolutely.
And they will just go along. And it's really disappointing to watch these people who can't think for themselves, but they do. Like anybody who saw the election, the Biden election, right? Anybody who saw that and doesn't look at it and say, this is all wrong. They stop the voting at a certain time,
Right.
and all of a sudden, then after that, Biden's ahead. All these mail-in ballots, preventing Republicans from monitoring the vote counts. What else? It was like a ton of different things that they did.
A ton of things that were all different to this election, and everybody expects you to think that, oh, there's nothing wrong with that. We just did all these new things that we've never done before, and it all went perfectly fine, and all the votes were valid, and everything is just as it is. Well, I just remembered this, that Cheryl Atkinson,
Yep.
she issued a challenge a couple of days ago to people in Georgia, like, I want to know all the people in Georgia who don't have ID. I'll put you on my show. Let's go.
Yeah.
Where are you? Like we always ask, where are all these people?
Yeah. And another thing is Democrats are always using the excuse that black people can't have. What's wrong with black people that they don't have IDs? Are you kidding me? It's unbelievable how the left will use black people for every possible advantage.
And that's what they're doing, using it.
And there's a good portion of, I have a lot of black friends, and they're like, yeah, this is, the whole thing is just ridiculous that anybody would even buy into it. But then there's a whole section of black people who buy into it. And it's like, I don't know, don't you see? Don't you see what's going on? How they're using you? What do you mean you can't get an ID? They're literally saying that black people are that incapable that they can't even get an ID, and I think that's so wrong. And I don't understand how it is that black people don't stand up and say, "Wait a minute, why are you doing this?"
Well, maybe they do when they're alone with their family and friends, but they don't do it in public because the signaling is all that matters, right? It's all about the narrative, and we're all together. That's the one thing that the Democrats do have as an advantage, though, is that they're perfectly willing to act as a group, regardless of how stupid things get, right?
Yeah.
They'll just, like, right. Did you watch Kamala on TV yesterday talking?
I try not to.
Oh, my God. She's nuts.
She's cackling.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible.
I think I did see what we were talking about.
It's so ridiculous to watch. It's like there's something wrong with her.
Yeah. I think what she's trying to do with that laughing, she laughs everything off because I don't think she knows how to answer it. And it might just be kind of this way of kind of maybe psychologically avoiding.
I guess, but it gives the impression that the people that are presenting the other position are, for some reason, they're just stupid. They don't know any better.
People get offended by it because you're asking a serious question. Now, if I was there at one of those press conferences and she did that, and I said, "What's your plan at the border? What are you doing right now?" And she started laughing and acting like a fool like she usually does. I would have just said, "Why are you laughing? What is so funny about that?"
Done?
Are you done laughing like an ass? What is the problem?
Right. We just need one reporter to do that. That would be awesome.
Like, why would you laugh at something like that? And hold her accountable to that stupid laugh, and hold her accountable to answering the question. That's what I would probably do. I say that, but I've never been in a press conference like that. So.
Well, I know, again, back to the election thing, that YouTube is suing Steven Crowder.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Because of all the stuff that he did with going to the locations, going to the addresses of the registered voters, and they're not there, or they're wrong. And he just found I don't know, Danny, do you know how many he found?
He found at least like 8 that he posted on the video.
Right. They have dozens that they worked up, but, because obviously you physically have to go. They went to Detroit, they went to places in Nevada, I think, and things. So it's all this stuff, but now they're saying, well, you can't do this, can't do that. And it's, again, just information. Like, why can't I know that information?
Yeah.
Why do I need you, whoever you are,
Right.
telling me that I shouldn't hear this information? Like, that's not freedom. That's not what we're supposed to be about.
I don't think it can last. Not in this country. I don't think that can continue. I think what they're doing is the media, the cancel culture, the media bias, the left wing narrative manufacturing machine. I don't think it can last for too much longer. I think they're getting a lot of resistance now. I think they're getting a lot of pushback, and I just don't see real thinking people folding and just accepting.
Well, that's what I think. I think there's a whole, probably almost half of the country that's watching this stuff and saying, are they going to stop? Is there one more thing they're going to throw at me? Do I have to be one more level of woke in order to be not a racist or not this or not that? It's like they almost look like they got free reign and we're going to throw all this stuff out there and tell everybody that they're wrong for all these different reasons, and it's all going to be great, and we're going to go forward, and everything's going to be the way we think it should be. And like you're saying, thinking people are going, I don't know about that.
Right.
That's not me. Why am I guilty for, what one person out of a million does? Well, it's the same with the shooter situations, right? How am I responsible for this?
Yeah.
Some goofball that decides he's going to go shoot people.
Exactly.
Or how am I, for example, I don't hold people responsible for what other people in their self-imposed group do, like the carjacking thing. 2 young black girls, right? I don't hold all black people responsible for that.
Right.
But let's talk about it so that we know that the action is something that we don't want to approve of and that shouldn't happen, instead of covering it up. Because I guarantee you by tomorrow at least, and today probably, there's going to be conversations going on saying, well, you can't judge those girls because this and this. But wait a minute, they killed a guy.
Yeah.
They stole his car and killed a guy.
Yeah.
And the girl's worried about her phone.
Yeah.
It's so the priorities and values are so convoluted and so or missing in most cases, I think. And again, probably a lot of that is family issues.
You're not
they weren't raised correctly. They weren't raised responsibly, so they don't respect anybody.
If you can do something like that, there's obviously problems in your upbringing because they're that young.
Right.
They're that young.
Right.
They're still close to their childhood.
Right. You can't say they're adults and they've been
Right.
brainwashed by media or something.
Right.
Obviously, they just weren't told what was right and what was wrong.
Yeah. So somehow, and I'm trying to think right now, what would cause those 2 young girls to think that that was okay? You got tasers, and you're going to tase this guy and take his car.
How do you get a taser when you're that age?
Well, that's another question. They had
Community tasers?
In D.C., it's illegal to have a taser if you're under 18. I'm not saying I support that law. I'm saying that was the law. So they illegally had it. But that's another topic. But what has to go on in your mind to think that that's okay? How do you? I guess I'm having a problem understanding.
So therefore, how do we tolerate that? You can't tolerate it, right?
Of course
you
not.
can't just let it go. It's like the people that say, "Oh, we have to, change the laws and make murder illegal." Well, murder's already illegal. People are still killing people. So what do you do about that person? That's what we should be caring about. How do we stop? What do we do about that person? What kind of message do we send because of what that person did? Well, but that's what they're doing on the other side with this George Floyd trial, right? They want to send a message. All police should be doing this, 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 and this. Okay, I get that process, but that process should be applied across the board. Because way more people are dying for other stupid reasons because of things that, like we just talked about, like because maybe the children aren't taught the proper things when they're growing up, or they don't have enough discipline in their life, or they don't have enough role models, or whatever all the reasons that people give are.
You know what? You don't have to be told not to carjack someone.
Right.
No normal person would have to be told when you're a kid. Like those girls' parents. I wouldn't ever expect a parent to have to say, well, don't tase people and carjack them.
I can't wait to hear from the parents. Hopefully they find the parents.
Well, yeah, but what must have happened is there was something that they were taught that caused them to want to take that action. In other words, we're talking about they weren't taught that that's wrong. No. I think I didn't think this through. So let me try to. They shouldn't have. You shouldn't have to tell a kid not to tase and carjack someone
or
right?
steal, does that make sense? Any basic thing, right?
Any basic thing like that. But what happens in the learning process and in the teaching process and the raising of a child, something must have been implemented to cause those kids to want to do that. In other words, were they taught that Pakistani Uber drivers are bad people and you should always hate them? Were they taught that somebody has something that you don't have and you're entitled to take it.
Right. It's a reward.
So I think what happened there was there must have been something implemented rather than the lack of a teaching.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Well, again, it's a complicated process that you and I are having a hard time understanding. All the more reason why let's have an expose on that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like what's going on in the households of young 13-year-old girls these days that would lead to that? What's the process that's going on there? And what's missing from that process that should be implemented? Because that's obviously not acceptable behavior under any circumstances. Right? There's no excuse for that. There's no reason that would happen. It isn't like they're starving and they were taking food from. It's not like you're robbing. It's not like Les Miserables, where the guy is persecuted his whole life because he stole a loaf of bread because his family was starving. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
not the same thing.
Right.
That's understandable, at least from a logistical perspective of how am I going to survive today. These girls obviously had cell phones and tasers, so they weren't worried about surviving, right? Unless they were walking through the parks and taking people's lunch from them and stuff. Like, what were they doing? We need to know more about these kids. This is crazy.
Yeah, it's something was in their thought process that must have told them that it was okay to do that.
So do you blame that on schools too, or what do you I mean, that's part of the whole. This again keeps digging into all these things that have come about because of COVID. Is that so? Are the schools that these kids are going to, are they not imparting any kind of normal wisdom of the world on them so that they know that these things are wrong, that you don't do these things? Because it's not coming from home, obviously, right? They're not.
Well, again, you're going back to the idea that they weren't taught that the thing was wrong. And what I'm saying is that although that's true, they weren't taught that it was wrong. There's something else that was implemented that taught them that it was okay.
Right. There was something to gain by.
There's something to gain, and they must have felt that they were entitled to do that. So what causes that? What causes someone to think that they can attack someone righteously and steal their car? There's something there that we're not getting. We're missing it. Is it an entitlement piece? I don't know. Maybe did they feel entitled? That's the only thing I'm gravitating toward.
Right.
Is that the only thing I can produce in my mind is that there was some sort of entitlement there, that they felt that they were owed it or something like that.
That's a big theme that's probably overall true for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Maybe we should drive to D.C. and knock on some doors. Anthony?
What do you think, Anthony? We'll go to D.C. and we'll start
knocking on some
knocking
doors.
some heads?
Like, what are you teaching your kids?
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's move on here. I had another couple things that I wanted to hit on. The George Floyd trial. Oh boy. So the George Floyd trial is going on now. My initial thought on this is, no matter what happens to the cop, if he gets off, they're going to lose their minds in cities across the country.
Right.
Because then somehow the white cop got off, but if the cop gets arrested, then they're still going to lose their minds because George Floyd was unnecessarily killed. So our country is not going to win with this case, no matter what the turnout is. What are your thoughts?
Well, the thing is that this is the system on trial more than anything else.
The policing system?
No, I mean the judicial.
Judicial.
How trials are handled, evidence, all this other stuff. And that, I think, is what has been totally glossed over. Because I guarantee you that many, many people have no idea how evidence.
Sure.
You have a charge.
And they overcharge, too, from what I understand.
This is the stupid problem because more signaling. Whoa, this guy's guilty of first-degree murder. Yeah. You don't know that.
Right.
Why would you throw that out there first? And then if it doesn't happen, then you're upset. This is the whole goal-setting thing. Like, we have to do this. No, you don't. Let's just go through. So you have a charge, you have testimony and evidence, and you have a jury, and then you have a verdict, right? That's the process. That works a very specific way. There's rules and regulations at every step. And what most people who judge in the court of public opinion don't understand is that when you are on a jury, the judge instructs you on how to view this evidence.
Yeah.
This is you can judge it like this. You can't judge it like this because you're looking at evidence. You're not looking at opinion. You're not looking at how you think it should be. You're looking at what actually happened and what the evidence shows.
Yeah.
But that doesn't matter anymore because people have already made their minds up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So what are you going to do? So now what's happening is that if they don't get the answer they want, then the system is bad. But the system functioned the way it was supposed to function. But so many people on the left, on the news especially, have completely unrealistic expectations of what's supposed to happen. Oh, he's guilty of first-degree murder. You don't know that? What? Let's charge him for what we know. And if they want to put the guy away for what he did, let's charge him accordingly and put him away for that. But don't make outrageous charges, and then when they don't come about, you complain the system doesn't work. The system works fine. People just don't know, they don't understand how the whole thing works.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And the evidence, that's presented. I guess my question is, will the jury actually be non-biased?
I don't know.
Is it possible at this point? I mean, who hasn't heard about this story? Do these jury members, are they really like locked away in a cave somewhere with no technology?
Well, they haven't been up till now, so this happened last year, right? It's not like they don't already have opinions on it. They should have moved it to like Alaska or something. They should have moved it somewhere different.
Yeah, so that's another thing. So it's going to be, you're going to have biased jury members, I would think. I mean, I don't want to assume that because hopefully they're honest and
well, I would like to be on a jury like that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go. Show me.
Give me the data.
I'll be the spoiler if it doesn't show up that it is what it is. I don't have a problem, but I would follow the evidence. I wouldn't go on what I thought was supposed to happen. And heaven forbid that people are going to make their choices on the jury based on fear of people rioting.
Oh, God.
What kind of a system is that?
Well, that's exactly what that's what the rioters want. That's what the groups want them to worry about. They even want the judges and the attorneys to fear that.
Right.
Everybody involved. They want them to know that if it doesn't go their way, that there's going to be hell to pay. And we're going to see more riots. I don't care how you look at it. I don't care what happens to the outcome. We're going to see more riots.
There's riots going on every day anyway, right? This
Isn't
hasn't
Portland
stopped.
It's just you stop seeing about it. You stop seeing it on the mainstream media because it doesn't suit them.
I don't even know how the media calls itself media anymore. They don't give you any information. They just give you what they want to keep the narrative going, and it's sad because it's leading us to all be more ignorant of things that if we're going to be informed, we need to know, and we're not getting the information. You got to search and search and search, and then a regular everyday person either doesn't want to or doesn't have time to do that. But the media has them trained, so they just say, okay, this is this. Okay, that's the opinion I have. Let's have that. Let's go. And if you don't agree with me, you're wrong. When they know nothing. They know almost nothing about what they're talking about, but they have a strong opinion, and they think that's what matters.
And you said it earlier, they have a limited amount of information, and I think people like that. They just
sure.
want a limit, because if you have the more information you have, the more you got to think.
Absolutely. That's how the news does it, though. You watch, they talk for 20 seconds, and I know all about that person. He talked for 20 seconds. Yeah. Meanwhile, and you and I, I'm watching videos that are 3.5 hours long, trying to get to know what somebody's about. You know what I mean? And they put something on the news, and it's like they edited it and made it seem like this. Plus, that's the problem too, is that you can edit stuff to make it look like anything. You can take off parts. You got the whole fine people hoax and the drinking bleach hoax and all that stuff, where you just take off the little pieces that give you the extra information and look at this. Whoa, that's terrible. We already don't like that guy. Yeah. He's got one more bad thing against him because look at what we saw in the news. I know everything.
It's funny how they actually thought, a lot of the anti-Trumpers thought that Trump actually said go drink bleach.
I saw another thing the other day where they said, well, look at this over here. They have disinfectant written. I go, did you listen to what he said? Because I don't know one Trump follower that listened to what he said and said, oh, I should go out and drink bleach.
Well, the people who actually believe that, how could they not look in the mirror and see what a dope they are for following something like that? It's just like, how do you look at let's say a fellow anti-Trumper and say, yeah, he said drink bleach. Yeah, he did. And not look at each other and think you're a couple of complete morons. How do you ignore the fact that you're an idiot?
Well, but we both know that that process of looking in the mirror and going, am I being an idiot? You have to train
yes, that's
yourself
true.
to do that
That's
because
true.
that's not normal to do.
That's true.
You look in
Yeah.
the mirror and see exactly what you want to see,
Yeah.
right? We all do that. So that's what I mean. So but that's part of the concept of really, if you want to move the conversation forward with people that you don't agree with, you can't start in your own mind even of thinking, well, they're just idiots. They don't know anything. They're worthless. That's not even worth my time to have the conversation.
I'm guilty of it sometimes.
Well, we're all guilty
Yeah.
of it, but because you reach your breaking point after a
Yeah.
while where you're like, oh my God, do you not understand that 2 and 2 is 4 under almost every circumstances in this universe?
There was one thing I saw that somebody said, 2 and 2 is 4 is racist because some people might not believe that it's 4 or they don't have the mathematical education to understand that it's 4. So therefore, when you say 2 plus 2 equals 4, you're racist. They have ways to justify this stuff.
I heard yesterday they said if you teach piano or classical music, it's racist. Okay. So that means all the classical composers, obviously.
Oh, they're all racist.
Got to throw all
Gotta-
that out.
gotta
Listen,
cancel 'em.
Well, this is the thing: is that
Cancel
you're going to
Beethoven.
cancel so much stuff where you're not going to have anything anymore. Then what are you going to do? You know what I mean? Again, it's going to come down to we got to cancel your cell phone because it could give you bad information. So we're going to take your phone away from you. You can't have a computer because it might give you bad information. If you just follow, and this is the thing with a lot of these processes, if you just follow it out to its logical end, it turns into nonsense. Well, this is what Scott Adams was saying. He says you got to just embrace these people and their processes. You got to go with. That's why he identified as black. He goes, I'm just going to identify whenever I want. That's how you do it, right? Everybody says you can do that.
Yeah.
I'm doing it. Does it work? Obviously not. But again, if you actually try to implement some of this stuff in your own personal life, you find out that it doesn't make any sense and nobody's really going to buy it. But that's the narrative. So we're running on this fake narrative that's rolling along over the top of everything, and everybody down here is going, oh my God, I can't do anything. That's the narrative. We have to do what they say. And you and me and everybody else are outside going, the emperor doesn't have any clothes on here.
Yeah.
That's not what's going on.
Yeah, this is stupid. The whole thing is stupid, and you people are just going along with it like it's
It's
a real thing.
Taking the high road a lot of times because you don't want to insult people personally, but after a while, you're just like, how do you get through your day?
How do you function? How do you do?
How do you not have an ID? Do you go and get your prescriptions? Do you get your check in the mail? Somebody knows who you are. It's not like there's no way to identify you.
Right.
And if you need to go get a card that says that, just, you got 4 years. Figure it out.
Figure it out. You got.
And if we let those people vote that can't figure out how to do that, are they helping the system? Are they contributing to the system? If they can't figure out how to get an ID.
Well, I'd like to see who these people are. I mean,
well, that's what Cheryl Atkinson wants. Who are you? Who are these people?
Where
who
are
are the
they?
people with no IDs?
Show me 2 people that are unable to get an ID.
Right. We should try to find some locally.
Yeah, we
I'm
should
going to
go.
advertise locally for some people.
We should have a loaded mic episode where we
should.
go around.
I'll try to do some video. We can go out and do video and stuff and knock on doors.
Are we going? And do we go into the inner city of Albany because that's where the Democrats tell us that these people are?
Though. You got to be careful. 4-year-olds with pistols. You got to be careful.
We go down near 787. Was that like 2nd Street and down that area? It's nice.
Wow, that's
even down near the what's the Palace Theater? Even down near that area, near the highways. Clinton Ave. All right. Well, we're getting the wind up here, so we got to wrap it up. All right. Well, next week we'll pick up because I still wanted to talk about the vaccine passports. The vaccine passport. We can't talk about that. We're out of time.
Well, maybe we'll know more by next week too.
All right. Cool. See you next time. Yep. Thanks so much for watching The Loaded Mic on YouTube, Rumble, Simul TV, and Right America Media. You can also catch the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, whatever your favorite podcast app is, we're there. I'm Dan Wass. The Second Amendment is not a privilege, it's your right.